We are live. Hello, everybody. Mike Miazga here with the American Supply Association. Would like to welcome you to another one of our ASA Town Hall interview series. We have a special treat today. We're joined by Bill Darcy, the CEO of the National Kitchen and Bath Association. Bill, nice to see you.
You too, Mike. Good to see you.
A lot to talk about today. So what we've done here, we did this a couple of weeks ago. We've asked ASA members that are interested in business in the kitchen and bath space to submit their questions to you. And we had an overwhelming response here. And let's get going. I'll burn through these, and a lot to cover from pandemic related stuff. I think a lot of people want to know about CABOOM coming up next year, but we'll start off at the top with some kind of COVID related questions. You were on Fox Business at the beginning of the pandemic talking about the kind of the do-it-yourself movement. Obviously, people are cooped up in their homes during the pandemic, see stuff that they may want to get remodeled in the house, maybe in the kitchen and bath space. I know my wife was quite guilty of that with stuff in our kitchen. But we're seeing kind of a trend here with folks going to maybe going to Lowe's or other, Home Depot, other big box stores, and maybe that's creeping into our supply chain, our professional channel. First, how is this affecting it's kind of a three-part question from this member. How is it affecting the community? And is it hitting every layer of that NKBA community, from the designer, the installer, and the remodeler?
Yeah, sure. So just thanks again for inviting me. I've attended your conference over the years. Mike Adelizi's been kind enough to invite me, and we share many of the same members, so and some not. So it's great to be with you today. Thanks again for having me on. Back to your question, it's true that the home improvement industry has certainly fared better than most throughout the crisis, driven by this increased consumer interest in DIY, as you mentioned. Home improvement centers have remained open, considered essential, and disposable income that has, may have been spent on things like vacations or dining out is being redirected to the home, specifically kitchen and bath. So at the peak of the crisis, 81% of kitchen and bath remodeling projects using professionals were postponed or canceled, but according to our NKBA Kitchen and Bath Market Update we just released in June, homeowners reported that they plan to reschedule 70% of those projects in 2020. K&B tends to recover more quickly than other indicators in times of economic uncertainty, and as you know, we are closely tied to the housing market. Record low mortgage rates, applications to purchase a home, are once again on the rise, and a strong housing market is often reflected in healthy remodeling growth. Just disclosure for those of you who do hear any hammering in the background, I happen to be undergoing a kitchen remodel at the present moment. So it's interesting, certainly living within the COVID environment, working at home and dealing with a remodel, as many of your members do as well. Hopefully that answers your question, Mike.
Yeah, the second part, kind of to piggyback, what do you see in the next 6 months in terms of that DIY, the do-it-yourself mentality, so to kind of combat that, so homeowners are going to realize that the professional supply chain is a viable and vital a part of what goes on in the industry?
Yeah, the recent increase in unemployment, might ironically benefit K&B to some extent in the short and long term. Prior to COVID, when unemployment, was hovering around 3-4%, the industry was experiencing a shortage of skilled labor. With unemployment much higher now, the industry might be able to attract some of those young apprentices as well as careers to something considered, essential.
We've talked about obviously a surge in people wanting to remodel their homes and stay in their homes and looking for the home improvements. What specifically is NKBA doing right now to support that movement?
Yeah, you're right. People have been really living in their homes since our on-the-go lifestyles came to such an abrupt halt. We're no longer running out the door to work and shuttling kids after school activities and lessons and traveling for business or going to dinner with friends, some of us. So As with so many kitchen tables being transformed to impromptu offices, homeowners are seeing a lot of flaws that they might have glossed over before. About 2 weeks into the shutdown, NKBA began a series of live webcasts called Brave New Business, which provides valuable content for really all segments of the industry. We've discussed advice and strategies to help guide our designers and remodelers in working with homeowners in these rapidly changing times. We've emphasized the value of working with a pro on how, in fact, it's more cost effective in the long run. NKBA pros can communicate and illustrate with examples that by using their services, homeowners won't purchase materials they don't need, or make mistakes that cost time and money, or even potentially do damage that ultimately has to be undone or redone. So again, potentially greater costs if consumers are not working with an NKBA professional to start the project.
Let's talk a little bit about the supply chain, and specifically here. You've probably seen it. I've definitely seen it. I went out to the grocery store the other day my wife needed a couple of quick items for my daughter's birthday party. One of them being distilled water. I forget the other item, but the shelves are practically bare in the grocery stores. We're hearing a lot about the supply chain being broken. However, there is a demand there for products. So have you seen specifically the kitchen and bath sector being affected by supply chain slowdown? And if yes, are kitchen and bath experts moving customers to alternative products?
So first, the shipping delays, not only raw materials and supplies like lumber and steel, but also finished product. Cabinets and appliances have certainly been impacted. Time needing to complete jobs based on that. Our K&B professionals are resilient though, and they've responded in several ways. First, they build in extra time and communicate very clearly with their customers about what to expect and when. Several of our experts who have been on Brave New Business have told us that their clients have been very understanding during this time. The key to a smooth job is effective communications. Second, our designers and remodelers are working very closely with suppliers, showrooms, and distributors to learn what products might be in inventory, and actually many have specified American-made products, if possible, to speed up the delivery process. So the whole process benefits from meticulous organization and scheduling of deliveries, work crews, installers, inspectors. This reinforces why it's so important that professionals select NKBA members. And I could speak to my own personal project here that my designer and contractor suggested early on that I start ordering things in an unusual time frame where the job was still a couple months away. They said, at least understand where products might have delays in appliances. If so, get the order going. If the cabinet is not going to be produced in a certain time or whatever, try to get ahead of it as much as possible. So more and more we kept hearing on Brave New Business that it's really about effectively communicating it and building in as much lead time as possible.
One important part of the supply chain on ASA's front, and they're most of them are your members too, is the brick and mortar showroom kitchen and bath showroom aspect. Overwhelming majority of ASA members have some form of a brick and mortar showroom, some more than others. We now have multiple buying groups in our industry that are dedicated solely to the luxury and decorative kitchen and bath space. What innovations is NKBA noticing from the showroom end that may be combating where things may have been headed during the pandemic with internet shopping and contactless shopping?
Yeah, great question. Certainly, having been in an environment where the brick and mortar showrooms were initially off limits, there was no choice but to adapt to a virtual environment. Those who were quickest and most skilled with those virtual tools gained an advantage. For instance, showrooms that began giving virtual tours to show designers and their clients actual products and finishes were able to really limit disruption to the workflow. We've seen, we see though that virtual tours will stick around. It's fast, it's safe, it's convenient. Somehow they'll be part of the process either way. Our member showrooms are demonstrating tremendous creativity, ingenuity, and really an unparalleled commitment to customer service. They're offering to do business with their clients in whatever way they would like. You know, we meet them where they are. Not everybody's comfortable, and some people are more comfortable. So, you know, virtual showroom tours, private appointments in the showroom, shipping samples to the client's home so they can see and feel products before making the final selections, or even traditional showroom visits. You know, we know that kitchen and bath remodeling either of these rooms is a major investment, time and money, and the faith that the homeowner puts in the professionals to design and execute the project. It really comes down to the relationship between the different players. A showroom that cultivates a great relationship with the designer, remodeler, and installer, as well as the consumer, we believe will thrive. So again, continuing to reinforce that, going the extra mile with communications amongst the contracting group on the trade side, as well as with the consumer.
What, two-part question from another member here. What would you classify as the biggest surprises you've seen during the pandemic in the kitchen and bath space, and how would you characterize that same space in terms of the recovery as we start the the resilience and recovery process here?
Yeah, first, and I would say not so much a surprise, but more just me being super impressed. You know, the industry's resilience and ability to bounce back so quickly, or even limit some disruption for those who jumped on the virtual tools really quickly. You know, especially knowing in our country, so many sectors have been very much less fortunate. According to a survey conducted for the NKBA by John Burns Real Estate Consulting, at the height of the pandemic in mid-April, as I mentioned earlier, 81% of kitchen and bath projects were either postponed or canceled. You know, since then, 70% of consumers say they plan to resume those projects before the end of the year. So on the positive side of our industry that has been with everyone spending an inordinate amount of time in their homes, they've decided that they need to do something about it. You know, in that same study that we did with John Burns, 38% of households with at least one person working from home said that the crisis has changed the way they use or think about their kitchen and bath. And 19% of those households with one or more working from home specifically said they want to undertake remodeling or renovation of their kitchens and baths in response to the pandemic, versus even 11% where no one works from home. So that was interesting. And it seems, again, the more time we spend in this space, in the home and generally in those rooms that are the most important in the house, the more we realize how much we would like to invest and make changes or make them better.
Some great information there. One of the things I've been curious about during these previous town hall interviews with our members is, are there any particular product categories that shock people, like stuff's going hot off the shelves? We learned about a month ago that anything dealing with a swimming pool supply, valves, pipe, hard to keep in stock. Distributor down in Texas relating that they had some bad weather. An employee put a note up on Facebook that they had generators in stock, and those flew off the shelf. And the other big one, the other commonality here, is touchless bathroom fixtures, and even to the point where there's a manufacturer in our industry that does a annual survey that where the results say the typical bathrooms are so dirty in public places that you kick the flusher with your foot. Now that's encouraged with COVID. Do you see the prevalence of touchless fixtures exploding even more here going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. In this same John Burns study revealed that in response to the pandemic, respondents referred to touchless technology with sensors or voice command as a necessity going forward. Not only the obvious touchless faucets and toilets, but also showers with voice controlled temperature and water flow, or cabinets or refrigerators with an auto open mechanism. I mean, I think the hybrid of technology and the environment we're living with sensitivity to germs and touching and things like that, I think you're just going to see more and more the trend stabilizing here with this is the way that the consumers are going to go.
we'll kind of wrap up here the COVID part of our discussion. Member has this question: what advice would you give to operators of decorative luxury kitchen and bath showrooms, and maybe what should they be doing differently moving forward to maximize success in what is most certainly a changed business environment?
Yeah, big change for our members and your members. As I mentioned earlier, we all know, this is a relationship business. On previous Brave New Business episodes, some of our experts have encouraged designers and retailers to reach out to former clients just to see how they're doing. Very casual, very soft selling. How are you doing? How are you making out through the challenges you're experiencing? And if you get in touch with these satisfied clients, it might remind them how they need to remodel another part of their house. This is kind of like back to sales 101, where you do the basic things like follow up with those customers that you had. When everything was booming, sometimes you lose focus on that. So we say really go back to the core of what makes your business valuable to your customers, and go all in on that. And it's time to ramp up social media, marketing with social media. Make sure your website is beautiful, functions well, really represents your story, your authentic story of who you are as a business. And I would strongly consider investing in more digital tools to help your customers. Whatever you can do to make, eliminate some friction for them, make it simpler. If it's difficult to navigate your website or difficult to find what they need in this environment where they're relying so much on technology, it's not going to be a great experience. So really take a look at those digital tools you have and where you can invest, reasonably to improve them.
That's again great advice, by the way. Let's drill down a little, several kitchen and bath specific questions that NKBA is certainly an expert on. New construction, does it have a different average cost than a remodeling job?
Yes, the cost of installing a kitchen or bathroom in a new home is significantly lower than remodeling a kitchen or bath in an existing home. There are a few reasons. First, there's no demo. So there's no labor removing the cabinets, appliances, countertops, flooring, and even possibly walls. Next, since home builders generally buy in bulk, many manufacturers provide discount pricing, which they are able to pass down to the home buyer. And finally, the biggest thing is remodeling kitchens and baths costs much more than new construction because of the product choice. Homeowners who have been planning and saving for a remodel tend to select higher end products for those rooms versus new construction. Very rarely do you hear anyone downgrading when they do a remodel, right? So it's really about, your taste, escalates, on a new home construction from a new home construction to when you are remodeling. It makes sense.
Let's talk a little bit about the labor market. ASA, we're in the midst of one of our big 3 initiatives going forward is how do we place a significant number of professionals in our plumbing, heating, cooling, and pipe supply chain, where the average age of a plumber is in the mid-50s now. Average age of a distribution executive is very, very similar. On NKBA's end, have you seen over the last 10 years, has there been an increase, decrease, or numbers kind of stayed the same in terms of kitchen and bath designers in the industry? And the second part of the question would be, for someone that may be looking at this as a career path, what's the best type of schooling, education to get into that particular field?
Yeah, really good question. It's interesting. In my 14 years with NKBA, what jumps out to me is not necessarily the number of kitchen and bath designers, but rather the quality of their expertise. In the past, kitchen and bath design was a second career for many. These individuals turned to the NKBA for information and training. They became certified kitchen and bath designers to gain knowledge and expertise from the leading industry association to demonstrate those credentials, to their clients. Today, some individuals still do that, turn to as a second career to design, but more and more young adults are becoming aware that this career exists. Back when those people were changing careers, it wasn't as known. So now they can pursue an associate's degree in residential or interior design at a community college, or even pursue a bachelor's degree in design school at a 4-year school. So we have NKBA has a robust network of 2- and 4-year affiliated schools that offer programs in residential kitchen and bath design. And incidentally, the basic difference between a 2-year design degree and a 4-year degree is that the 2-year degrees don't take all the general, education credits that the 4-year students take. So the design credits are very similar. So it is interesting, how all this has evolved.
Another question right up your alley here. The tip. Tell our members, the viewers of this video, what's a typical remodeling timeline look like, and are the designers the ones usually selling the product, or does that kind of fall on the showroom salesperson?
Sure. So most of NKBA's kitchen and bath designers are small businesses who operate their own design studios with just a few employees. A typical remodeling project begins with the designer meeting with the client to understand their needs, their wants, and their budget. Then the designer draws up the plans, usually using CAD software, and then they share that with the homeowner. These plans typically include, product specs, for instance, the type of cabinet, appliances, and countertop. And once the design is approved, then the designer would work with the homeowner to refine the product and material choices based on style and budget. They may go together to the showroom to select appliances, materials, countertops, or cabinetry, or the designer might, bring or ship now samples to the client's home. So every designer has his or her own way of doing things. And in living through this process right now, myself personally, it's interesting, again, getting back to in an unusual environment we have as COVID, you have to plan ahead a lot of this stuff. And also, I typically would be at work when the remodel would be going on, not in the house while construction is happening. So that's another, unique twist for me in that scheduling things. I mean, listen, obviously, just like, I'm a consumer like everybody else, but I want it done as quickly as possible. So I have to make sacrifices in things that I'm trying to do or try to be flexible in areas. But it is much more challenging for me in an environment that I rely on. We're on Zoom calls all day long with technology, and you really want to manage that project best you can. But I can say my personal experience has been outstanding. And I think it just speaks to this resilience, the creativity, how these pros are reacting to the environment right now. It's very impressive to me.
Let's ask this is the most popular question from ASA members. At the start of 2020, we were humming along, going to different industry events. Of course, one of them being your tremendous KBIS show, which now, of course, people know is partnered with the home builders to form Design Construction Week. Just a tremendous show year after year. If you want to see the latest kitchen and bath innovations, that's the place to be. Now we get to March. I remember we were at a buying group meeting, later in 1 week in early March, and by the next Tuesday, everybody in our office was working remotely. That's how quickly this thing unfolded. So the big question out there with COVID ever changing, where do you see KBIS 2021 right now? Is holding that event live a possibility still?
Again, I think just like you were saying, our world was disrupted very rapidly. I think we try to adapt as best we could, and safety for our families and our colleagues and everything was paramount. And that is still the core of what we are believing and using as we work through this. That said, we're moving forward with KBIS to be live in Orlando, February 9th to 11th. And we've been actually very much encouraged by the feedback and commitments we've received from previous exhibitors, exhibitors that might not even have been participating recently. So them saying how important 2021 is to be back at the show it speaks volumes for us. However, we are realistic. Like everyone else, we're planning for a different show this year. This will include virtual component, to enhance the live experience. So again, the health and safety of our exhibitors and guests is something that is our #1 priority. We're taking every precaution possible to ensure a safe and clean environment. We're considering some things that your viewers might be interested in: wider aisles, staggered session attendance, virtual badges, touch-free registration, prepackaged meals, all the things that, anything that is a gathering of sorts that you really want to be able to do, but you want to do it safely. Any any limitation of contact, on surfaces that you can eliminate, the better. We want to give our attendees the best experience possible. And Orange County Convention Center is working really, really hard. They're a huge campus, which does lend itself to social distancing. Any of these, that's one thing in these huge facilities that you can do. So listen, we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of things to watch, but we're working very, very hard to bring the attendees a live event and complement that with some virtual programs.
That being said, so you look at events in the kitchen and bath space, big ones, ALA, Lightovation, KBIS. Has what has happened with the pandemic and some of the new innovations you outlined there, if KBIS is live in Orlando next year, is this kind of the way you see maybe these types of events going in the future? And could it just be the fact that the pandemic has opened eyes to these exact types of new innovations that'll make these shows even stronger going forward?
Yeah, it's no one knows for sure what's ahead for, as we know, anything really, trade shows included, but like everything in life, I think trade shows will evolve. As you say, like the technology is being developed. It's likely to enhance the experience and be better. I think trade shows will be better in the future because of this enhanced technology. It's likely, very strong positives are going to come from the format and will remain after the current, situation is under control. So considering the cost savings in time and travel, the future might involve a hybrid, kind of best of both worlds. However, as we say, this is a relationship business, a trade to trade, especially the ability to see and hear and touch the merchandise at any trade show and develop those relationships are so important, no matter what industry. You can't underestimate that, the value of, and I'm sure you've had these experiences, Mike, where you go and you meet somebody at the bar downstairs in the hotel and somebody that, you didn't even expect to meet, or you went to an event and you it would network with somebody else. And it really led to something very, very important and critical for your business. So I think we know that in-person events are key to success. Although, we have to adapt and work with exactly the conditions that were presented. So I think it's a smarter, safer, more efficient show going forward. And I do expect, like our partnership with NAHB, I mean, we recognize that these exhibitors wanted to go to one event, and we've really worked hard. The Emerald staff, our staff at NKBA, the NAHB team, to try to create a fantastic event with Design and Construction Week. So we are excited for 21. We're going to see an increase in pavilions. So something new, both domestically and internationally. So we have a new German pavilion coming, as well as a ICFF, International Contemporary Furniture Fair. For those who have attended that at Javits before, there will be a pavilion for ICFF at KBIS this year, as well as the CEDIA pavilion returning. So there are a lot of bright spots, things that we hope to be able to introduce live to the audience.
Let's take out your magic NKBA 8-ball here, and one is the bath and kitchen space in a good spot as we speak today, and where might it be headed 2 months down the road and into 2021?
Yeah, as I talked about earlier, the home improvement industry has fared better than some of these other industries during the crisis. We have suffered losses, as I'm sure your members have, as a result of pandemic-related disruptions. Compared to 2019, we currently estimate that residential kitchen and bath spending will fall about 11.7% in 2020, an 8.7% drop in new construction spending, and 15%, a little over 15% decline in K&B remodeling. We have 2 quarterly research indexes that are helping us monitor the economic health of our industry. Our next KBMI Kitchen and Bath Market Index is due out the first week of August. And the next update to our Kitchen and Bath Market Outlook is due out the first week of September. So it will be interesting to see how all the work we see happening right now will impact our next round of revised projections, because those numbers obviously were tracking behind of what we had been seeing. So now that we see all this burst of a lot of remodeling and certainly in certain pockets in the US, we're very interested to see what the August data on KBMI tells us, and then the the bigger outlook in September. So if any of your viewers are interested in paying attention to this or even seeing recent studies, they can access those at nkba.org/insights. Again, we look forward to getting the data back and seeing what the data tells us about the future more than what Bill's Magic 8-Ball thinks.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of the same. And again, to echo what you said, these August and July, August, and September numbers will be very interesting to see what comes of those. Another reader question, NKBA reader, viewer or member question. They're wondering if NKBA provides to members any content that NKBA members can use on their social channels, and if so, how do they go about accessing that?
Yeah, I love this question as a marketer and a salesperson myself, because I want our members to share as much as possible. We have great content they can find on our Brave New Business series on NKBA YouTube channel that can be shared, as well as a lot of interesting content on our website, especially on the Insights page that I mentioned earlier. Also, we have a daily news feed that we work very hard to keep that updated with relevant content to share. We also do a weekly newsletter that can be shared. So there's a lot of content there. And if any of your members, or our joint members have questions, they can contact our customer service department, who's excited to talk with them about how they can help them. 1-800-THE-NKBA or info@nkba.org, either one of those they can access, and somebody can help walk them through it if they need support.
Awesome. What are you looking forward to most second half of 2020?
I guess settling into some stable, consistent, normal. I mean, I think none of us like a lot of disruption, and we've had, more than our fair share. But if we can start in the stabilization, I think is one thing, and then starting on that recovery, more consistent recovery. Certainly hearing more positive news on vaccine developments. For somebody who has 3 young children and with school coming up, we try to understand what we're doing in business, but so much impacts our personal lives here that is weighing on all of us stress wise. So I think, those things are what I'm most looking forward to.
Before we let you go, one more member question. What concerns you the most going forward here in the kitchen and bath industry?
A tough one, but a fair question, because there's so much uncertainty surrounding our overall daily lives at this point. Our main concern of the industry pre-pandemic was the shortage of skilled labor, and that has not gone away. As you mentioned earlier, it will be with us after the health crisis is over. Through 2026, we know that 750,000 jobs are expected to open within the design and construction industry. And there aren't enough apprentices in the pipeline to fill this need. So this is why we started NKBA Next Up, our initiative that makes high school students aware of careers in design, building, and remodeling. Other concerns as a result of the pandemic might include consolidation, with some of the smaller players feeling the effects of the recession, created by the pandemic, more than the larger ones, or be able to sustain that for a less amount of time. Financial concerns around the economy, when will jobs return, stability to the job market, consumer spending, consistency, and a robust housing market. It is so disappointing, I know, and listen, health is most important, and those of us who everybody's been safe is, we just have to be blessed and thankful that that's the first case. But going in, coming off the biggest CABOOM ever and the biggest momentum ever, it was certainly disappointing. So we know some things, the world's going to come out of COVID a changed place. Maybe different attitudes remain after the health crisis is over, at least in the short term, towards some simple things like, going out to eat and even shaking hands. We think people may have second thoughts about vacationing for some time. So what we do know is that people have embraced their homes since they are spending more time in their homes than ever. And this means they're likely to spend more money on improving those homes. So I think overall we remain optimistic about the long-term prospects of our industry, because we're very fortunate that in this industry, initially as essential in many states, and now that we see the work being done and people wanting to create better spaces in their homes, this is certainly good for NKBA members. And we still, pray for the stability and the safety and health of all those first line workers, as well as all those essential workers who have to be out there and kind of navigating things more than others. So, you know, I'm just very thankful, Mike, that, you know, you and Mike Adelizi invited me to be on today. And we're just grateful for all those companies, your members that pay dues and invest and use the association to help them kind of work through all this.
Well, Bill, we're highly appreciative that you took some time here to take a nice deep dive into where the kitchen and bath industry was at the start of COVID and then coming out of it, and certainly all that NKBA has to offer folks in the kitchen and bath supply chain. And hopefully, fingers crossed, that in February we'll be live at the Orange County Convention Center in Orlando for a record-breaking KBAs.
That's what we hope. We hope to see everyone there. Thanks again, Mike.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. Thank you.